When she disobeyed a direct order, they stripped her of everything: rank, respect, even her family. But they never asked why she did it. My name is Captain Maya Ellison. I'm 32, and I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, where my family saw me as the reckless one. My older brother, Daniel, was a decorated Army colonel, the pride of the Ellison name. My sister, Rachel, was a military historian, always writing about heroes. Me? I was a captain in the Army until 3 years ago, when I was court-martialed and branded a traitor for defying orders during a classified mission. They didn't know I'd led a secret rescue operation that saved thousands, until the truth came out at an international ceremony. It started at our family's Memorial Day barbecue in Raleigh, 6 months before my discharge. The backyard was filled with flags, Dad's ribs on the grill, but the talk was all about Daniel's latest medal and Rachel's new book deal. I sat quietly, sipping lemonade, when Daniel smirked. "Maya, still playing soldier?" Rachel laughed. "You're always causing trouble." Mom gave me a pitying look. "You'll settle down, dear." Dad, a retired general, just shook his head. Their words cut deep, but I was used to it. To them, I was the screw-up, not worth the Ellison legacy. The truth? I wasn't reckless. In 2022, I was stationed in a volatile region, leading a covert unit tasked with securing a supply route. My orders were to hold position during an ambush, but intel I'd gathered, ignored by my commander lieutenant, Colonel Harris, showed civilians were trapped in the crossfire. I defied orders, redirecting my unit to evacuate 3,000 refugees. The mission succeeded, but a logistics error pinned on me cost equipment and delayed operations. Harris called it insubordination, and I was court-martialed. My family didn't ask for my side. Daniel said I'd disgraced the uniform. Rachel called me a liability. I was discharged, my rank stripped, my name tarnished. I could have fought harder, but the mission was classified, and I was sworn to silence. I moved back to Raleigh, taking a desk job at a security firm, living in a small apartment, and avoiding my family's calls. The refugees I'd saved were relocated, their story buried in redacted reports. But I kept evidence: encrypted comms logs showing my orders to evacuate, satellite data I'd used to map the rescue, and a letter from a refugee leader thanking me. I thought I'd stay silent forever, until I got a call from Major Leona Vance, a former colleague now at NATO. "Maya, your mission's being reviewed," Elena said. "They're calling it the Silent Rescue, led by an unnamed officer. Why isn't your name on it?" I froze, my heart racing. "It's classified. I can't talk." Elena pushed. "NATO's honoring the operation at a ceremony in Brussels. Send me your evidence." I hesitated, then sent her my logs, data, and the letter, all encrypted. "Get this to General Moreau," I said. She promised to deliver. A week later, I was invited to the ceremony, unannounced at Elena's insistence. Harris, Daniel, and Rachel would be there, unaware I was coming. I spent weeks preparing. I compiled a presentation, slides showing the rescue's timeline, my comms logs, and satellite maps proving I'd acted on accurate intel. I included the refugee leader's letter, anonymized but powerful. I practiced my speech, keeping it calm but unyielding, ready to face Harris and my family. Elena confirmed NATO's oversight committee had my file and was intrigued. They'd given me a slot to speak, after Harris. I didn't tell my family I'd be there. I wanted their shock on camera when the world saw the traitor was a hero. The night before my flight to Brussels, I stood in my apartment, staring at my old uniform, now packed away. My evidence was backed up on a USB and cloud server. I texted Elena. "Ready?" She replied, "You're about to rewrite history." I smiled, my nerves electric. The Ellisons thought I'd shamed them. Harris thought he'd buried me. Soon, they'd see why I broke the rules. Hey, if you're hooked on this story, hit that subscribe button for Revenge Line. We bring you epic family drama and revenge tales every week. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Stay tuned because Maya's about to reclaim her honor. The NATO ceremony in Brussels was just a week away, and I, Maya Ellison, was in my small Raleigh, North Carolina apartment, sharpening my plan to reveal the truth about the silent rescue, the secret operation that saved 3,000 refugees but cost me my Army career. My former commander, Lieutenant Colonel Harris, had branded me a traitor for defying orders, and my family, brother Daniel and sister Rachel, had shunned me, calling me a disgrace at our Memorial Day barbecue. They thought I was just a washed-up captain, working a dead-end security job. They didn't know I'd led the rescue that earned NATO's attention, or that I was about to step into the spotlight on an international stage. The ceremony, broadcast live, would show them why I broke the rules. I'd spent weeks building my evidence, knowing Harris's influence and my family's military prestige could bury me if I wasn't prepared. I had encrypted comms logs from the 2022 mission showing I'd ordered the evacuation based on intel Harris ignored. Satellite data, saved on a secure drive, mapped the refugee routes I'd secured. A letter from a refugee leader thanking Captain Ellison for their lives was my emotional anchor. My former colleague, Major Leona Vance, now at NATO, had sent my file to General Moreau, the Oversight Committee chair. "They're calling you the silent rescuer," Elena said over a secure call. "Harris is taking credit. You sure you want to crash his party?" I gripped my phone, my voice steady. "He ruined me. I'm taking back my name." To get into the ceremony, I needed more allies. Elena had slipped me onto the guest list as an observer, keeping my name off Harris's radar. She also connected me with Colonel James Carter, a NATO investigator reviewing the silent rescue. I sent Carter my logs and data, adding a summary of Harris's negligence, how he'd dismissed my intel as unreliable and pinned the mission's logistics error on me. Carter replied, "This is compelling. Be at the ceremony. We'll hear you out." His tone was cautious, but I sensed he was open to the truth. Back in Raleigh, I kept up the act of the disgraced veteran. My security firm job was mundane, filing reports, monitoring cameras, but it gave me time to prepare. Harris, now a rising star at the Pentagon, was prepping for Brussels, boasting about his rescue operation in military circles. Daniel, a colonel, had texted me, gloating about his role as a NATO liaison. "Big day for me, Maya. Stay out of trouble." Rachel called, her voice patronizing. "Maybe focus on civilian life, Maya. The Army's done with you." I didn't respond, letting them think I was still broken. But I'd invited them to the ceremony through Elena, posing as a NATO aide. "Your presence is requested at the silent rescue honor." Their egos ensured they'd attend. I needed leverage against Harris, so I dug deeper. Elena slipped me internal Army reports, showing Harris had a history of deflecting blame. 2 other officers had been disciplined for his errors. I found a memo where he'd called my intel overblown, hours before the ambush that trapped the refugees. If he tried to discredit me, I'd expose his pattern. I also reached out to my old squad mate, Sergeant Malik Jones, who'd been on the rescue. "You saved those people, Maya," he said, over coffee in Raleigh. "Harris threw you under the bus." Malik agreed to write a statement confirming my leadership, which I added to my file. I spent nights refining my presentation for the ceremony. It opened with the silent rescue's impact. 3,000 lives saved, entire communities relocated. I included a timeline of my actions, comms logs, satellite maps, and my orders to evacuate. One slide showed Harris's memo dismissing my intel, juxtaposed with the refugee leader's letter thanking me. I added a video simulation of the rescue, built from my data, showing my unit's routes under fire. My speech was calm, but unyielding, designed to honor the mission while exposing Harris's lies. I practiced in my apartment, standing in front of a mirror until every word was razor sharp. I also prepared for my family. Daniel, with his medals, would call it a misunderstanding. Rachel, the historian, might spin it as a team effort. I had answers ready. Daniel wasn't there, and Rachel's books didn't cover classified ops. My evidence was bulletproof, and I'd deliver it with the precision of someone who'd been shunned too long. I researched NATO protocols, learning their oversight committee could recommend reinstatements for wrongful discharges. If they backed me, I could reclaim my rank. The family wasn't oblivious. They sensed trouble. A few days before my flight, Daniel called, his tone sharp. "Maya, you're not planning anything stupid at NATO, are you?" I shrugged it off, folding laundry in my apartment. "Just living my life, Dan." Rachel texted, "Don't embarrass us again." I smiled, saving their messages. Their arrogance was my edge. They didn't see me as a threat. I needed an ally at the ceremony, so I looped in Malik. Over a video call, I showed him my presentation. "You're going full-on hero mode," he said, grinning. "What if Harris pushes back?" I leaned back, gripping my coffee mug. He can try. I've got logs, data, and you. Malik agreed to attend, ready to speak if needed. He also had a contact at Military Times, reporter Lisa Nguyen, who'd covered the silent rescue. I sent Lisa an anonymous tip. "The real rescuer will be at NATO. Watch closely." She replied, "I'll be there. This sounds huge." The day before my flight, I stood in my apartment, staring at a tailored black suit, professional, commanding. My evidence was backed up on a USB and cloud server. I texted Elena. "Ready?" She replied, "General Moreau's expecting you. Give him hell." I also called Malik, confirming he'd be in the crowd. "They're gonna lose it," he said, laughing. I nodded, my nerves steady. The Ellisons thought I'd disgraced them. Harris thought he'd erased me. Tomorrow they'd see the hero they'd branded a traitor. Hey, if you're loving this revenge story, smash that subscribe button for Revenge Line. We drop epic family drama and takedowns every week. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Stay tuned, because Maya's about to rewrite her legacy. The NATO headquarters in Brussels was a fortress of glass and steel, its grand hall filled with generals, diplomats, and media streaming live to a global audience. I, Maya Ellison, stood backstage, clutching a USB drive loaded with evidence proving I'd led the silent rescue, the covert operation that saved 3,000 refugees but cost me my Army career. My former commander, Lieutenant Colonel Harris, was set to claim credit for the mission, while my brother Daniel and sister Rachel, who'd shunned me as a disgrace at our Raleigh family barbecue, sat in the front row, unaware I was there. They thought I was a traitor, stripped of rank and respect for defying orders. Today, on live TV, I'd reveal why I broke the rules, and the world would know the hero they'd branded a failure. I'd spent weeks preparing, my evidence airtight. Encrypted comms logs from the 2022 mission, satellite data mapping the refugee routes I'd secured, and a letter from a refugee leader thanking Captain Ellison. My former colleague, Major Leona Vance, had ensured I was on the guest list, hidden from Harris's view. Colonel James Carter, a NATO investigator, had my file and was ready to back me. Sergeant Malik Jones, my old squad mate, stood nearby, his statement confirming my leadership ready to go. Lisa Nguyen, a Military Times reporter, was in the crowd, her camera crew poised to capture every moment. My black suit was sharp, my presentation loaded. The ceremony was about to become my reckoning. Harris took the stage, his uniform gleaming with medals, his voice booming with false pride. "The silent rescue was my strategy," he said, showing slides of the operation's success, maps and stats I'd compiled. My leadership saved 3,000 lives. The audience clapped. Daniel, in his colonel's uniform, nodded proudly. Rachel, the historian, scribbled notes, probably planning her next book. I gripped my USB, my heart steady but burning. They didn't see me, yet. Harris's slides reached the mission's logistics, where I'd defied his orders. He glossed over it, saying, "Minor errors were corrected under my guidance." A French general, General Moreau, raised her hand. "Can you detail the evacuation's planning?" Harris faltered, mumbling about team coordination. He didn't know the data. My data. I stepped forward, my voice clear. "I can explain that." The hall turned, cameras swiveling. Harris's face went white. Daniel frowned, leaning forward. Rachel's pen froze, her eyes wide. General Moreau nodded. "Captain Ellison, take the stage." The room went silent as I walked to the podium, my heels echoing. "I'm Maya Ellison," I said, my words broadcast live. "I led the silent rescue." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Harris tried to interrupt. "She was court-martialed." I cut him off, plugging in my USB. "This comms log shows I ordered the evacuation, based on intel Harris ignored." The screen lit up with my orders, time-stamped hours before the ambush. I showed satellite maps, tracing the routes I'd planned to save 3,000 refugees. "This is my work," I said, playing the refugee leader's letter. "Captain Ellison risked everything for us." The audience murmured, cameras flashing. I clicked to a memo from Harris, dismissing my intel as unreliable. "This cost equipment, not lives," I said. "I was court-martialed for saving people." Malik stood, holding up his statement. "I was there. Maya led us, not Harris." Colonel Carter spoke next. "NATO's Oversight Committee reviewed Ms. Ellison's evidence. It's conclusive." Daniel's face was red, his hands clenched. Rachel sank in her seat, her notebook forgotten. Harris stammered, "This is a team effort." General Moreau cut him off. "Colonel Harris, sit down. Ms. Ellison, continue." I detailed the rescue's mechanics, real-time intel, drone coordination, and risk mitigation. A British general asked, "Why was your role hidden?" I showed Harris's court-martial report, blaming me for the logistics error he'd caused. "I was silenced by classification," I said, "but I won't be anymore." The crowd's applause grew, drowning out Harris's protests. General Moreau stood. "Mrs. Ellison, NATO recognizes you as the silent rescuer. We're recommending your reinstatement and a commendation." The hall roared. Harris was escorted out, his career in ruins. Colonel Carter pulled me aside after. "Your rank's being restored, Captain. NATO wants you for strategic operations." I nodded, my heart pounding with triumph. Daniel and Rachel approached, their faces a mix of shock and shame. "Maya, why didn't you tell us?" Daniel stammered. Rachel added, "We didn't know." I looked at them, calm but firm. "You called me a traitor without asking why. You didn't deserve my truth." Mom and Dad, watching from Raleigh on TV, called later, their voices shaky. "We're proud, Maya." I hung up, done chasing their approval. NATO awarded me the Distinguished Service Medal, and Military Times ran the headline, "Traitor no more, Captain Ellison's heroic rescue revealed." I returned to Raleigh, reinstated as a captain, leading a new NATO task force. The next family barbecue was silent. No more mockery, just awe. I stood outside NATO headquarters, the Brussels skyline glowing. They thought I'd shamed them. Now, they knew I'd saved thousands. Hey, if you love this epic comeback, smash that subscribe button for Revenge Line. We drop the best family drama and revenge stories every week. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Thanks for joining us.